Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hey everyone, we have a lot to talk about today. Thanks to everybody joining the Facebook group. That's going well, and we're looking forward to having good conversations there. So before we get into it, a little bit of news to start off the morning. It was a bit of a gray cloud this morning as we had news that MedMen was breaking off a deal that they had lined up back when Euphoria was still a thing in the MJ sector. And we had APHA ending one of its supply agreements. Go check those out for further details if you're interested. But bottom line is it started with a bearish overhang this morning. And even, Barron's was putting out articles highlighting the breakup in MedMen and saying this is why pot stocks are bearish today. And then bulls started buying the dip in a good amount of names. So we're going to take a look at that. Before we get into it, some other things. Number one, a few of our Chart Guys members, this is a message to Canadians out there. So you know that in the US, we have now hit the holy grail as traders where we have commission-free trading, and that's great. Competition forced that. There was fierce competition between all of these brokers, and we now have zero fees. That being said, Canada is still a monopoly to a certain degree. There's not a whole lot of choices, and the response from companies to customers has been F you, pretty much, whenever there's an issue that arises. Even when the whole platform goes down, they don't offer any free trades as a result to it. That being said, things are changing a little bit, and just some notes that I want to make is Canadians have less competition for brokers. Some members are having success even with Questrade, where members say they almost never give free trades, and brokers are resistant until you give them the amount of commissions you've paid over the last month, the last year, and refuse to back down. So far, brokers have agreed to review the fees of these individual members, and it's definitely worth calling them up and being firm in your position. So they're having some success, certainly more success than in the past. And if you want change, it's time for Canadians to unite and use your power as a consumer and demand that you want lower fees, because what you Canadians are paying is absolutely absurd, and it's time to change that. So I don't know how to organize it. I guess this is a good way to reach a solid 1,000+ Canadians. Well, get out there and organize and get on top of those brokers to lower their fees. Another little update, my probability needle. And in a recent video, I said, I don't think the Senate is going to vote on the States Act because of all the mess going on in US politics. My probability needle is upticking a little bit, and that is changing. The reason being, Laura Ingraham here, and I believe she is a woman who is on Fox News. Rumor has it, Senate McConnell is going to push through the Unsafe Banking Act, the Safe Banking Act, in the middle of the THC vaping crisis. Horrific idea that the president should reject. So why is this notable to me? Number one, this is the first I've heard that McConnell is even considering this bill aside from Todd Harrison. Todd Harrison, I follow him on Twitter. He is a fundamental bull in the MJ space. He said one of his sources, who's been dead on, says that a vote is coming before Thanksgiving. Take it with a big grain of salt. Why this is more meaningful to me than that is because this is coming from someone who's clearly not a bull. And I'm going to take information coming from her as more believable, because a bull would obviously have it in their best interest, maybe have a little bit of emotional bias to want that to be the case. She clearly does not want that to be the case, but that is information that is now moving my needle saying, okay, well, maybe McConnell is going to go over this, and maybe he will bring it up to vote. And again, I believe that if McConnell brings it up to vote in the Senate, it's as good as passed. Then it goes on to the desk of the president. The president has multiple times affirmed that he would pass something like this. I believe he had a private meeting with, I think it was one of Colorado's senators, where he assured him that if something like this came to his desk, he would sign it. Still a wild card, of course, but I would be confident that the Senate would pass it if it were brought up to a vote. So that's something to be paying attention to, and it can certainly get to an interesting end of the year here in 2019. So let's get into technical analysis. Daily higher lows forming. So CGC was crushed This morning, on the start of that gray cloud of bad news, the 15-minute RSI got down to the low teens, and the 5-minute RSI got down to the low teens as well. I was focused in other places. I was making trades in the biotech sector and the S&P 500, ended up with some solid gains, but in hindsight, I wish I was paying more attention to this move in CGC. That being said, congrats to the bulls, but there's still work to do. So our daily higher low is set. We need an hourly trend change. And this is the kind of move where time of the day is so important in trading most likely scenarios. If I look at this move on CGC and I see, which I did do, I looked at noon and I said, okay, we hit the low. We saw a big move on the hourly. It's noon. We have 4 hours left to trade. What are the odds that for the next 4 hours we just go up versus that we see hourly consolidation, considering we haven't changed the hourly trend yet? And I was able to determine it's probably likely we're going to see hourly consolidation before the end of the day. So that helps us determine the most likely scenario. If this happened, move that over 3 hours, and this move happened from 11 to 2:30 p.m., it would be a different story. The bulls could hold up and close strong into the end of the day because an hour and a half is a lot different than 4 hours left of trading. So either way, we have to form an hourly higher low, and we have to see a bull break and change this hourly trend and then get over 23.75 to confirm the first very clear daily trend change that we've seen in a while and get over these daily exponential resistances. So it's right there for the taking for the bulls. They just have to follow through. S&P 500 ended very weak. Good sign that the bulls were able to disregard that, but we obviously want to see the S&P 500 as strong as possible, not only for these short-term bounce attempts, but if the Senate were to vote on the SAFE Act, if we want to see the U.S. sector really respond to that, we want a healthy, strong market. And right now, there is a risk that the S&P 500 could lose the monthly and weekly uptrend heading into the end of the year, which would just dampen the party if we did get that bill to pass. Cron, I did make a trade on Cron today, which obviously was the wrong horse, and there were very clear signs of that. So my trade on Cron that I took is I saw the strength in CGC, and I saw Cron had not made a bull break yet. I saw this triple top, 871, 871, 871. I saw this bull volume. I looked back. I said, that's the highest 5-minute bull volume in multiple days. The sector is seeing a little bit of life. I'm going to enter on the bull break of 871. Saw a 1.5% bull move of follow through. Looked great. Healthy 5-minute consolidation. No red flags. And then right here, there's your big red flags. And why is that a red flag? Because if you look at the 15-minute time frame and what the consolidation looked like for Cron on that pullback, that's the candlestick we're talking about. And I went through and I compared it with CGC and APHA and Cron, and this is what their consolidation looked like. Something along these lines, bull flag, as opposed to huge pullback. As soon as that happened, I said, whoops, I chose the wrong name. And my trade was based off of the low. I got in and I was going to put a stop under 840 and then hope for the daily trend change. But as soon as I saw that 15-minute, I said, I don't want in this position anymore. I want to exit and focus on one of the stronger names. So on this little bounce, I exited just under break even, and that was just fine. It was a taco loss, and after being already up more than a day maker on the day with my other trades, it pretty much was a non-event. So chose the wrong horse, but if I had entered any of the other names at the same point in time, wouldn't have made much to the upside either way. At this point, the entries for the bulls who are looking for entries are trying to enter on those hourly higher lows and then hoping we get that hourly trend change and then daily trend change with the follow through. ACB, daily higher low trying to form. Bulls have to break. Let's see, we have to change the hourly trend. So a higher low has to form. We have to break the high of today tomorrow. Then we have to see 464 break for a clear trend change. There are some bottom fishing plays. There have been bottom fishing plays out there. 380 was support. We bounced off 395. A handful of other names had some nice bottom fishing plays off of their daily lows as well. APHA, daily higher low trying to form. Bulls have to change the hourly trend. Higher low, higher high, and then have to see it on the daily follow through over 553. It's right there for the bulls. They just got to do it. TLRY, higher low established on the daily yesterday, tried to get follow through today, had to break 25.49. We got up to 24.96 and then faded. Unable to get that bull break. So bears still in control here unless the bulls can get over 25.49. So the 5 major Canadian MJ names that we watch, all have that daily resistance ahead, all have hourly trends that need to change, and that is criteria number one for the next day or two. Change those trends. It's also been worth noting for observation purposes, CGC and the MJ sector have almost been a little lead indicator for SPY the past couple of days, and then we'll get into these other names. But looking at SPY, the last 5 days, so we have our low, high, and we're looking for a higher low. At one point today, it looked like a nice bullish candlestick, and it looked like it was going to happen. We then had the bears react to the Federal Reserve speaking, and it had erased it and closed it at the low of the day. But the bottom line is the low for SPY was hit on October 3rd. Look how similar CGC looks. Low, high, and we're looking for the higher low. The low on MJ was October 2nd. The bounce got started without the help of the S&P 500. We topped out on October 4th. SPY topped out one day after, October 7th, one trading day after. And bulls showed up this morning on CGC, let's say on the 5-minute trend change. Bulls showed up just after 11 a.m. When did the SPY bulls show up today? They showed up at about 12:40. We hit the low of the day as the MJ sector bulls were showing up. So there's been multiple times where a bull move in the MJ space or a temporary top in the MJ space has pretty much been a little bit of a lead on the S&P 500. So that's just been a notable little observation. Obviously, we disregarded SPY weakness today, but we always want the wind of the market at our backs. We want to see the SPY bulls form a daily high or low and try and make their way back up to the recent high. We want to see a daily trend change on SPY to maintain this weekly equilibrium and not lose the weekly uptrend heading into the end of the year. So that's important to pay attention to as always. VFF, close at the low. No sign of a higher low at this point. 830 is support. Bulls do not have a whole lot of space to work with. Have to hold 830 and break 949. And again, just where we stand, we can look at percentages to determine probabilities. We need a 10 to 11% move to change the daily trend from here. And what does CGC need? Obviously, way less than that. We need about 4 or 5%. So we're much closer to a bull break on CGC and some of these other names than VFF. VFF has to hold 830. But that being said, if we drop down to 830 tomorrow in hourly oversold conditions, it's a potential bottom fishing play off of that support. T-God, also no follow through, increasing bear volume, red flag. Break of 173, we've already dropped to a lower low. The daily downtrend continues, all-time lows continue. Anything on the daily chart now under 206 is just a lower high. Labs, daily high or low trying to form. Have we changed the hourly trend? Not yet, but need to see that follow through tomorrow. And then it's all about 447. Higher low trying at 362. Have to break 447 to confirm the daily trend change. VGW, same thing. Higher low formed yesterday. Didn't close strong. Bulls have to hold 292 and break 338 to change the daily trend. HEXO, bottom fishing play. Support was 352. We bounced off 356. As far as risk to reward, that is a great setup. What was the hourly RSI? Just getting to oversold as we tested that support. The 15-minute RSI was down at 20 when we tested that support. So again, if let's just say the stop, I would personally put my stop under 350 psychological, but if I'm entering at 358, let's say, and my stop is 349, I'm risking 9 cents. And at this point, already up 12 cents. And if we get any kind of bounce follow through, then obviously the risk to reward is multiple times the reward for the potential risk. OGI, still just free fall. I love when TradingView has your saved drawings from months ago. This was that head and shoulders where we formed that lower high and then rolled over, and it has been nothing but a massive bear fest since then. Honestly, OGI at this point is the IAN of the Canadian MJ sector. It's just what is going on with this stock. There is no bottom. The RSIs are way more beat up. It's dropping to lower lows when other names are holding on. That's not the case with IAN in the past week. IAN is more correlated with everybody else at this point, but as far as the last 3 months, definitely a similarity as far as a scratching your head and saying, what is going on here with this amount of weakness? That being said, key support of 297 is still here. So the weekly RSI is right at oversold. The daily RSI being down at 21. If we drop down, it's a bottom fishing play off that support level. So worth keeping an eye on. Personally, I don't know if I would take that trade in a downtrend market environment, but it's worth keeping an eye on. If I were to take it, I would need daily, 4-hour, hourly, 15-minute RSI levels all oversold to look for a test of 297 to try and hold. Anything on the daily time frame under 369 is just a lower high. So on to the USMJ names. Curaleaf, still very healthy. The OTC in the US is so illiquid that I'm considering this a triple bottom. 824, 833, and 830, pretty much all within 1% of each other. So triple bottom for me. Bulls need to see a break of 888. Then we're looking at 929, the high. And if we can see this little higher low and higher high, that would be a good sign for the sector, as Curaleaf is a sector leader in the US. That would only help confidence in other names. CWeb has not formed a daily higher low yet. Bulls have to hold 1560, still a lot of space, but we need that higher low, and then we need to break 1958. You can see the vast majority of individual names rejecting from their daily exponential resistance have to get over those levels on a daily trend change. TRUL, we broke resistance, but only on a liquid 5-minute candlestick. That is nowhere near enough, and the last thing you want to see on a support break, or I should say a resistance break, is a 4% pullback over the next 10 minutes. So yes, it broke resistance, but no, not in any way, shape, or form was that convincing. We have a little double bottom, 1206, 1202, hourly time frame. Bulls need to keep this uptrend and get a more convincing break. Let's say 13. We need to get over 13 to consider that a weekly trend change with a higher low and higher high. But TRUL is on the verge of being the first USMJ name to change its weekly trend bullish out of the bunch, really, and that would be notable. MedMen getting hit hard with that news. All-time low is the only support of 178. Bulls would have to hold 178 and break 247 to change the daily trend. Obviously a huge pullback and a huge setback for this bounce attempt. GTII looking for the daily higher low to form. Bulls have to break 1298. We'll call it 13. Bulls have to break 13 to confirm this trend change. Weekly higher low trying to be set. So a trend change is there. If the Bulls can follow through, change the trend on the daily, and then it's 1445 that has to break to change it on the weekly. And last, we got IAN. IAN still heading back down to the lows. 156 is the only support nearby. Bulls have to hold 156 and break 214. Still a very weak chart overall. So that's where we stand. Some names much closer to breaking short-term resistance than others. We're going to be watching our sector leaders, CGC. We're going to be watching Curaleaf to see how it stands with regards to the USMJ space. We're going to continue watching any developments of the potential of McConnell bringing the SAFE Act to a vote in the Senate. We're going to watch the SPY weekly equilibrium to see if the weekly uptrend can continue. And that is that. Hope you have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.